Hello everybody, I hope you're all well. Happy National Adoption Week and National Adoption Month. I thought that I would sit down and do another quick video in celebration of Adoption Week and month since my last one was so well received. Thank you anybody who commented or messaged me to say that you found it helpful. I'm really pleased that you did. So I've got my cuppa, excuse me. One of the things that me and Sam were talking about the other day is that often when you adopt, one of the fears is that you miss out on all of the things that you would normally get if you had a biological child. And actually, we found that after we've now adopted, we found that we would have missed out on a lot of things had we gone on to have more biological children. So I wanted to share some of the things that we discussed in a bit more detail because I think I found them quite interesting myself. So number one has to be one of my all-time favourites, and I think one of the things we considered when we decided to adopt was, are we okay with missing out on all those standard firsts? Obviously, it's a fear that a lot of people have. You know, if you adopt an older child or even a 1-year-old, you feel like you're really going to miss out on those first steps, the first smile, the first giggle. But actually, with adoption comes so many unique firsts, regardless of age. For us, we found that our little man's first smile at us, the first time he came to cuddle us, the first time he said mama and da da da, the first time he chased the dog, have all just been so special because they've been his firsts with us as his family. And I think we've been more excited about these firsts because they're so much more special. We've worked so hard to build a bond and attachment, and having these little firsts in response is so rewarding and makes us feel so proud. So regardless of age, you could adopt a really older child and still have that first cuddle, the first time they come to smile at you, the first time they call you mummy or daddy, and that will always be an incredibly special moment. Number two for us has to be the incredible wider family network that we've had as a result of adoption. When I first had my daughter, I felt there was an incredible lack of support. There wasn't really a community of support, at least that I managed to find or that I felt I fit into. Whilst we had our support network around us, it just didn't seem to engage us as much as it has when we've adopted. We have met some incredible people that will probably always be a part of our lives, and that can be social workers, it's little man's family finder, his foster carer, and their family. Even to an extent in our home, again, it's just our experience, birth family, whether or not you have contact with them or not, and whether or not you have an indirect or direct relationship with them, they will always be a part of our wider network that we really do appreciate and think about often. And it's weird for us to think that before we didn't have any of this, and to anybody else it might seem really strange, but to us it's just the most normal thing in the world. And I absolutely love this huge network of people and friends that I've met through adoption training, through our agency, through the Instagram and social media adoption community. It has just been a whirlwind of support, and that is something that I have felt has been one of the biggest positives for me in adoption in comparison to the experience I had when I had my little girl. Number three that we discussed is the fact that adoption allows you to have some control over the choices of what you want your family to not look like, because I think every child comes with challenges that you probably don't know about until the future, as does any biological child. But there is a matching criteria, and there's a matching criteria for a reason. And one of the positives for us was that we could select a matching criteria that we knew would really fit our daughter. It would mean that we could parent consistently, we could parent that need and her needs together. You know, we could choose age, gender, ethnicity, which additional needs we were and weren't comfortable with. And although we didn't know what challenges Little Man would come with long term as such, we knew that we had some control over the kind of child we wanted to adopt, and that can be a real positive when you have existing children in your family, or if you've longed for a child of a different heritage or a specific age, or if you don't want to adopt a baby, you want to adopt an older child. There really is so much options to fit any family. Whilst difficult and extremely challenging, and whilst it does make you feel incredibly guilty to say no to certain criteria, it's there for a reason, and that was really, really helpful for us. Fourth one that we always say to each other, me and my husband, is we always say, do you ever think that you would love him as much as we do? And it's one of the things that you fear. For me specifically, having a daughter already, and I know for Sam it was a huge fear, can I love another child as much as we love our little girl? And my answer to that is, now looking back on the last few months, for us, yes. And one of the most amazing things about adoption is that bond that you have with your child is something that I don't think any biological parent who hasn't adopted would ever understand. And I think a lot of it is because so many people who adopt have had such long and challenging and often quite heartbreaking journeys to come to adoption. When you get your little one and you bring them home and you meet them and you're bonding with them, that bond means so much more because you've worked so hard for that little person. And in my case especially, I look at him and I think, wow, you are ours, and I feel so lucky to be his mum. And I can't describe it. I certainly have different bonds with both of my kids. That does not mean I love them unequally, but my bond with my daughter is completely different to the bond that I have with my son. It comes with such a weird amount of love that it's just amazing. Another amazing thing that we both found about adoption is that our excitement was maximised. It was through the roof. With my daughter, I can honestly, hand on heart, say, again, just my experience, I was not excited one bit. There's not much of the process I enjoyed. I didn't enjoy pregnancy or having her or the few months following that at all. And there was never any point where I was so excited for her to be here. And a lot of that is due to my own trauma with baby loss, and I completely understand that will be different for a lot of other people. But with adoption, our process has just been constant excitement. And whilst I will acknowledge that the adoption process is incredibly tough, it's very intense, it can be extremely challenging, and I know that my husband and I are extremely fortunate to have had such a smooth process, and I know a lot of people have had really difficult adoption processes. But in our case, and in a lot of people's cases that I've seen specifically on social media, the excitement is unreal. That excitement when you get approved at panel, the excitement when you see your first profile, the excitement when you get a matching panel day, and the excitement when you meet your little one is just, it was almost unbearable for us. And I think that's a lot to do with you waited for a long time for it. You know that your little one exists, you've seen pictures, you've seen videos, you know that every step of the adoption process is leading to your kids, and I just find that one of the most exciting things ever. Okay, my last one, because I can hear my little man babbling away in his cot. That's so typical. Is that, again, in our experience anyway, we felt so well prepared to adopt. When I had my daughter, I had no clue what I was doing. I did antenatal classes, I read a million books, and I honestly think it still never prepared me for looking after her or a newborn at all. But with adoption, obviously comes incredibly intense training. In our agency, we had prep training as well as other training, so we could have training about fetal alcohol syndrome, we could have training on educational issues, on contact and letterbox and celebrating heritage and identity. and we engaged with every single training that we were offered. We also did a huge learning transformation journey of our own, and so the day that little man came home, we felt so well prepared and so confident to support him, raise him. We were confident about additional needs. We were confident about his background and his needs long term, and we felt that if we didn't know something, that we knew where to access that support. There was just so many plans in place that there was no worry in the back of our mind at all, because we'd already been so well equipped from our social worker and from our agency. And I honestly came out of most of our training thinking, blimey, I wish they did something like that in antenatal classes, because I understand that when you adopt, you are raising a child who has probably had a lot of trauma, possibly been neglected, and suffered a lot of loss and separation. And that is why, as parents, we have to have so much intense training. But regardless of why we have that training, we felt so ready. And as much as it is you have to wing it at first and it's a learn as you go, it was a completely different experience for us in comparison to many years ago with our little girl. I hope that has been useful for some people. I thought it's interesting to flip the perspective. We always got asked, do you feel like you're going to miss out? And I know that it's a common thing for a lot of prospective adopters to fear that. So I wanted to address some of the things that we actually really preferred and really found empowering and positive in the adoption process. So happy National Adoption Week, happy National Adoption Month, and I hope to speak to you all soon.